Welcome back, folks, to another 1v1, this time between JimRising and BuzzBlaze. Now, BuzzBlaze needs no introduction to this channel. We've seen plenty of him playing. BuzzBlaze, for those who don't know, he's currently ranked 13th on the leaderboards. He's keeping consistently in that top 20, top 30 range on AoE 4. Meanwhile, his opponent, JimRising, is an interesting one, actually. He's a StarCraft 2 pro. He's been playing for a very long time, actually. I was looking at this. I was like, oh, I saw he got like 40k earnings, not too bad. But he's been playing since 2013, 2012, I think, was when he first started in StarCraft 2. So kind of, I don't know if I call that declining point, but obviously StarCraft was starting to peter off a little bit. He's a Mexican player, so it wasn't one of the most supported regions. But yeah, he's been playing StarCraft for a very long time. He's an RTS veteran, and of course, BuzzBlaze, you know, like we said, needs no introduction. We know he's got some skill in his hands. In terms of matchups, we've got France against Abbasid Dynasty. So JimRising playing France. He's the one with the potential, in the red, by the way, to rush here. And then, of course, Abbasid Dynasty, what we've seen time and time again from them is a more defensive and static opening. I wouldn't expect anything different, given that currently, like, when you're talking about this matchup, you're going to build Spearmen naturally to counter out the play by the French player. And, of course, you can upgrade your Spearmen a little bit. And more importantly, as you continue down the line, you can then switch into Archers, which will counter the secondary play of the Frenchman anyway. The difference being that potentially you can eco-boom a little bit better. Also, once you get access to Camel support, you can counter directly the Frenchman. In fact, the interesting part is whether we're going to see BuzzBlaze go for the Camel Riders in this type of game, because it does directly counter out what French players want to do, which is, you know, the Night Spam, preferably, right? So we'll have to see if he tends to go in that route. Already be on the House of Wisdom, not too pricey, only 50 wood to build, and that's, how, of course, how you get access to landmarks. This is one area, by the way, you can have an eco advantage as the Abbasid Dynasty very early on, is the fact that your opponents invest villages to create landmarks. You just literally build them in a building. It's kind of silly as well when you could see, like, when you actually ripple effect the thought process, right? It's like, oh, so I don't have to waste villages on landmark building. Also, I'm going to scale with structure placement into these gathering rates for all resources, which then gets better at, you know, research production. So you can see how the eco trickles up, and why usually we actually see a lot of these Abbasid Dynasty players try and milk an economy advantage instead of going military super early. Speaking of economy, there will be a lot of food returning eventually for Blaze. Interesting part, and I love this scouting from Jim, he's looking for the dock, but so far Buzz hasn't invested in a dock. So this means that, in terms of eco, we said that Blaze could have an advantage, but food isn't going to be the one. Remember, the reason that this is the case is because when you invest in a dock, you now have a different building producing your food generators, as opposed to the situation currently for Blaze, where his villages are his food, his gold, his wood generators, and later his stone, right? So really interesting that he hasn't opted for that at all. He is chopping down some trees now. It seems like the way that he built structures, because of his prioritization to get a mill first so he could boost up these berry bushes, he seems to be behind. By the way, another thing to highlight, we saw this in a previous match. The reason that he's built the berry bushes, it isn't just that they double when they have a mill nearby from 250 to 500. It's because your gathering rate's meant to be higher. But let me show you guys a secret. You come close? You close enough? All right, watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. Oh, they fixed it. I think they fixed it. Yeah, they fixed it. All right. No flame. This is the right player now. So I believe when we watched Doubt play the other day, his gathering rate seemed to be equal, if not slower, than the harvest rate of meat from the carcasses. And the reason this was a big deal is because you get either 10 or 15%, I always forget, I think it's 15% gathering rate bonus from sheep and deer. I'm probably wrong about that. It's probably 10%. Someone yell at me in the comments. I always get fumbled. But basically, the TLDR is that it's quicker to gather from deer, sheep, boar than it is to gather from the berry bushes and farms without considering Civ bonuses. But one bonus that the Abbasid Dynasty gets is that the workers gather 25% quicker from berry bushes on top of upgrading them to 500 food each instead of the 250 mark. So this actually allows Blaze, in this situation, to get a reasonable amount of food intake. Right now, it's not looking good because he's only got 4 people on it. He still hasn't actually... Wow, okay, I think he's switching over now, and that's why there's so many people on wood. But he's yet to actually switch over to docks, and that is why Jim's numbers are so much higher. Look how many fishing ships he's got out already. It's a 9 fishing ship advantage already. And when we look at the woodcut alliance, right, we've got 12 people who are working on wood here compared to 9 here. So really, the question comes, where is Blaze investing? And he's investing in stone. So it looks like Blaze's plan is to go and stonewall at a choke point, which will keep Jim's early harassment out. Because remember, France, their full focus is going to be on cavalry to rush across the map as an opener, which is why he's going to score cavalry. And I love the way that Blaze has identified he can get away with this because his opponent still hasn't teched up. Remember, you can see when your opponent techs up. So he knows that if France is still in tech 1, then he's at a ridiculously huge advantage because that means the player that's meant to be rushing isn't even at a point where he can rush. And not only this, he actually, instead he's using the stone to make a second TC. So maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe he doesn't stone wall. Maybe he feels he can get away with more, but he's already singing a villager out. So I think I'm going to be right about a wall going up. It's just a case of whether it's going to be stone or not. I would love to see it be stone. The cost should be... I don't think the cost lowers compared to Palisades. So the way Palisades work, you can see this. So the initial cost is 15 and then it's 5 for each extra section. Woods work that way, but stone walls don't. So we're going to see, yeah, it looks like Blaze was looking for the choke point. He'll realize the shortest optimal point is across here. And there you go. So wood walls go down. Is this a walkable forest? No, it's not. I hope it's not, for his sake. So he's actually going to go for Palisades to begin with. And this is fine because what you can do is if you then see your opponent starts to invest heavily into Knights, it still takes some ages to get through Palisades. So then you can spam stone walls, which he can do if he wants. He's definitely got people working on stone. The thing that I'm going to be interested to see is whether he goes for a trip TC boom, which he could do with this many people working stone, this many on wood. Like Blaze at this point, like we said, he was behind an eco. But the fact that he managed to tech up first and now he has 2 TCs while Jim still only has 1, you're going to see a huge switch around in terms of these income per minute numbers very quickly. That being said, Jim is still keeping his eco up on the food front with all these fishing ships, something that Blaze is still completely ignoring. I'm kind of shocked that he still hasn't sent out 1 or 2 workers just to build a wood line, just to build a dock. Like, he has a good wood line. He's got plenty of wood coming in. But there it is, another TC! Oh my god, Blaze is such an exploitive player. I love this. It's all because of how slow that tech up is from Jim. In Blaze's eyes, he's so far ahead that he can completely milk his situation to eco boom. Well, he will be able to as long as he walls off this segment here, because it seems Blaze totally forgot about that. His worker was working to the left instead of the right. And in the meantime, Blaze will scout out the fishing line, so he knows that his opponent is on the water. That's the way he's reliant for food. And yeah, the Hulk spams as well. So this is the point where Blaze will definitely not go on water. I wonder if this is why Blaze in the first place just didn't want to go on water. It would make sense. Is you're up against France, you know Hulks are coming out early. France is quite frankly broken on water. On this map, there is counters to them in regards to there's just so much shoreline that it's hard for them to lock you out, so you can still do things. But he's just opted to be full in on land and not even try to like get involved in the water skirmish. And this means what will probably happen is Jim, at a very early point, will realize that there's nothing to fight on water. At that point, Jim will likely stop producing extra Hulks, which means that like the Blaze, if he does it this way, later on has a way back onto the water where he can quickly military boom water because his opponent will be complacent about it, right? So this is kind of the frustration Jim has, is like he might have to, over time, trickle in more military on water just to protect his dominance on the ocean. But we'll see if we get that far in. I got a feeling this one is going to go fairly long. Like with the walling up, with the eco booming already, and the fact that now there's no harassment attempt coming out from Jim, which is an interesting part to me. He's now building a knight. Is this his first knight at all? I think so. So one thing that should be noted is right now Jim doesn't know about these walls. He hasn't scouted that recently. And why this is a big deal is if you knew that these walls were up, you get 2, 3, maybe 4 knights, and then you instantly, just instantly off the back of that, which he's building stable, so he wants knights, build a transport ship and sail them across. What's likely to happen here is he's going to ride the knights forward, see the palisades are up, then he's going to be forced to go back to building a transport ship. That's an extra 20 seconds bought, and then you have to talk about the extra time it takes the transport ship to cross. And that might give enough time that Blaze then has some defenses in place and is no longer exposed. And is he about to do it again? Maybe. I think he's just sending his people to gather food, but he could actually 4TC. I would not be against a 4th TC, although I don't know if you really need it. We've seen Marine Lord do it when he was in a matchup against Drongo, and there's the stone walls. There it is. So he's going to wall off this, so any advance on the water is going to be worthless now. Trip Hulk's out for Jim, so he'll realize that he has full control of the water, and this should be where he maybe thinks about getting a transport ship after scouting. But so far, he's only got 3 knights. This is very slow, and instead he's now palisading, basically playing into Blaze's strategy. Because if you look at the eco situation right now, Blaze is up at 53 villages already, and Jim, well, he's got 53, but most of it is made up of all of these fishermen, right? So this is where he's keeping up, is because he gets fishermen. But in terms of any other type of resource, like the income per minute is going to skew heavily in favor of Blaze very quickly. Jim is at least keeping up on gold right now because he's got plenty of people plowing through with their picks. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the difference is this going to be another game where a player does... Yeah, this is another game where a player doesn't actually research his gathering tech, which is very interesting from a side that's trying to eco boom. Oh, nice move by Jim. He spots out and is able to snipe down this mill, but the workers do back away. They've got a secondary mill in a hunting area, so it looks like that's all that Jim will get out of this, and that's the most harassment he should get away with doing. Now, the cool thing that you can do with Blaze is you can begin to actually static move towards the center of the map and then wall further. And Jim is full-on turtling right now. What? Yo, guys, this is a Zerg player. This is a professional Zerg player, and he's playing more like a Terran right now. What's going on here? Now, one cool thing I would love to see from Jim is Tech Up is Tech Up beginning? Yes, he's building the Royal Institute. So Royal Institute is the one that has like cheaper research, and you can research them any tiers. A lot of people tend to go for I forgot the name of it. It's the one that treacles resources, though, basically. It's your economy one instead of your military. Looks like he's interested in the cheaper tech. One thing I'd love to see is for him to prep on this tech up to get 1 priest and go across the island to capture the sacred site. Because then he's treacling an extra 100 gold a minute, and then he can just focus on playing around this middle point. Which, by the way, look, it's covered by hulks. So this is the way that Jim could win if he plays into sacred sites. Because, remember, Blaze isn't on the water at all. So defending this sacred site should be easy peasy, right? Not to mention the fact that you're France... You have water control, trade chips. Just build trade chips because you get the additional gold. Yeah, I think it's 20%. That's not this is France. Trade chips return 20% more gold. You are not contested on the water, and for some reason you're not building trade chips. It's a bit confusing to me. I don't know if he knows about that benefit or if he just thinks that gathering the extra gold is better. I can see the value, but obviously these eventually deplete, and you can just set up an infinite loop because it's not going to be contested. Also, by doing this with the fishing ships as well, it would give you ample resource to just begin spamming out knights from like 3 or 4 different stables. I think the only concern he has is, obviously, if your opponent is just building spears, which, by the way, Blaze is, then you're in trouble. And by the way, Blaze just got his tech up. So he's booming. Right now, he's got the eco and the military wing, which means now he can get access to... Yeah, there it is. Actually, no, sorry. He didn't go military. He went research. So he's full on eco boom. So he'll be able to research cheaper. And I believe he can get it faster soon. Once he gets the Tech 2, or the Golden Age 2, which he hasn't even boomed for. In fairness, he's very split. He did go for the 4th TC. He went very defensive with it, though. So this is, look, guys, this is just someone building a real city. This is the military district. This is the commerce district. The commerce district is very big. Double blacksmith as well, so he's just trying to churn out the tech boom. And with a Spearman army, he could plow forward. I would love to see him now just get 1 priest. Yeah, there it is. There's the mosque. This is what I want to see. So he'll get his hands on the mosque, and then once the mosque is up, he'll be able to capture and get the treacle of gold. Also, he's just anticipating that a French player probably has knights, so the Spearman treacle will be good. What he needs to be careful of is because he doesn't have any scouting of this, what could easily be happening here is Jim could actually have an archer army. But it almost feels like because Blaze hasn't seen any horse harassment, he's kind of playing to this idea that maybe Jim isn't as comfortable with France. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't know how many games Jim has played. One thing that is a bit worrying, by the way, and we haven't even talked about it, is the fact that there is a choke point that you can run into if you're playing as the Abbasid dynasty here. This is walled off. This is very much not. I don't know if Jim thought this tree covered it. but I don't think it does. I might be wrong about that, actually, and now I'm thinking about it. But it looks like there's a thin line you could walk here. So we'll see if that is the case. I think there is a thin line you can get through there, though, as the Abbasid Dynasty player. We'll just have to see as the game develops. Of course, the problem is if you do it, Jim does have the Patrol and Hulk, so you'd actually be getting sniped out pretty quick. And Blaze gets through the first wall and sees a bigger one. Now, does he invest in the battering rams? He has plenty of wood. He has over 1,000 surplus, so if he wants to go for this option, it is definitely there. The other alternative you do is you now just control center and you move up and you basically create a new forward base here with a keep and then, multiple buildings producing units. There's the battering ram. He's just full spamming spears. These are vet spearmen, by the way. Remember, like Blaze, he has got the veteran Royal Knights, but they are directly countered, and he's yet to build the archers. He's finally switched it up. He's getting archers out now, but he does need to tech them up, which he's doing there. There we go. But it's double archery range, triple. There we go. Okay, that's enough. 3 archery ranges should be good enough to deal with the spear spam, especially when you're fighting in these choke points. I would absolutely love, now that he has the info on how many spear there are, to see a workshop being built. 1 Mangonel would just shrek all of these spearmen. And walls need the buffers, so Stonewall Towers being built, but battering rams are knocking on the door of JimRising. And he does not have anywhere near enough archers yet, by the way. Keep in mind that the Buzzblaze is miles ahead in terms of his military production at this stage, and he continues to spam a spear. And he's found the way in! The Hawks weren't looking. So the Horsemen will come to deal with this. Oh no! He didn't even mean to do this. I think Blaze, yeah, he'd clicked to attack under the Stonewall Tower, and his troops were going around the back because they had the mollies out. They were looking to burn down a structure. So he does burn down 8 of these spearmen, and it costs pretty much nothing for Jim. Wall is now going to be breached, and this should be where battering rams just start to focus on dealing with the Stonewall Towers. So he has an entrance point. It's a choke point, yes, but you don't actually have the critical mass of archers to stop this. Horsemen are going to charge out. The spears are just going to shish kebab these knights that is now fighting in a choke point, which is a bad idea. So Jim will back up, loses a few of them, and he loses control of his wall. And there isn't really enough buffer zone here to build a new wall. So he's going to actually be forced to engage. The Spearman Zerg continues. The irony of attacking a Zerg player with a Spear Zerg is not lost in this moment. The battering rams, now they're moving in. The Springles are here as well, which can snipe out the knights as they try and run away. It's once again fighting in a choke point. It means you can't use all of your spears, but in a one-on-one, these spearmen will trade their lives very well against the knights. And slowly he's dealing with them. Battering rams moving in as well, so we'll start to snipe out these melee buildings, which will completely just destroy the production rate of melee units for Jim. Meanwhile, the spearman production continues. This is 6 racks continuing to spam out spears. It looks like he has repelled him, though. He got enough archers in the end, and they're scared of the relic. He's only got spears, so he has to back away from the Wololo. Nope, they got him. They actually managed to snipe him out in the end. So the Springle does take down the priest who is holding the relic, but they've repelled him. There's enough here, enough Arbors plus archers to just repel this spearman away, and Blaze's assault is going to be ruined in its wake before it can really start to get off the ground. With that being said, Golden Age 2 has now been achieved. Now, this is getting to a point where if you continue to branch like this, and if you can quickly reach the 3rd tier of Golden Age, you're going to be able to mass-produce Spearmen and Springles at a rate which far exceeds what Jim can put out. That being said, now that Blaze sees what he's being countered against, this would be an amazing time to go for 1 or 2 Mangonels. Because 2 Mangonels against an Arbor line will just absolutely rip them. And I'm wondering if we're going to see another tech up soon as well. So it looks like he's actually getting the gathering rates from farms, which makes sense because he's basically burned all of the food production in this area. We're now just seeing Blaze switch over to farm production, which he'll have an advantage on. You can already see eco-wise, he's vastly ahead. In fact, Blaze, look at this number. 123 villagers, meanwhile Jim at 112. And in everything but stone, Blaze is ahead. In fact, I think the way to put it is he's blazing his way through to a late game situation. He could easily eco-boom up and tech boom, well, he's eco-boomed already, but he could tech boom up if he wanted to. In fact, he's even now grabbing the relics, so he's looking to get further gold treacle. And Blaze, has he finally? Yes, okay, he finally started using trade chips. 182 food and 91 wood, but I think he's only just started doing it. He is producing more, but it's kind of a late switchover. He will be able to catch up eventually, but Blaze, if he can get his hands on the relics and now control the sacred site in the center, should stay ahead economically. And wall's been rebuilt. Stone wall towers are back up, and that should start sniping the spearmen. It seems like he's stopped producing these spearmen now. Blaze still has extra pop to work with, but he's just not investing into spears. Understandable. They kind of past their time. And instead, there's a switch up into Camel Archers. So Camel Archers is an interesting choice because remember, they counter Spearmen. Spearmen that aren't going to be being built by a French player. I don't think I really ever see French players go for spears because obviously the ample choice, the kind of optimal choice in your mind is you want to build horsemen / Royal Knights, basically Royal Knights, and then you want to back it up with some archers until you reach the critical mass where you counter your opponent, and then you switch over to arbors to counter their late game. So this to me is a kind of a misplay from Blaze. Going in for the Camel Archers is kind of nice for this hit and run concept, but I would absolutely love to see some stables being built and then getting your Camel Knights out because they will actually destroy Royal Knights. Remember, they get a buff bonus. I think it's an extra 10 damage, I want to see. Maybe it's 20 against Knights, against any cavalry, basically. Which means at that stage, veteran Royal Knights just get completely shredded. So yeah, 300 gold a minute incoming. Wow. Yeah, so he did manage to get 3 of the relics. How many relics were grabbed by his opponent? Did he get any? Well, I mean, he's got a temple somewhere because he had one of his dudes. So yeah, he hasn't even picked up this relic again. Oh, this is pain. I mean, he doesn't care about the gold as much because he's got the trade chips, right? So it doesn't matter about this treacle. But meanwhile, what's happening here? It looks like the sacred sites are going to be decapped. Makes sense. Jim needs to get out on the map. And techs are continuing to come out. So there's the armor of camel units. Once you have the camel barding, I genuinely think you should be switching into camel swordsman. It's definitely the way to win. Like, both these techs are yelling to me, get camel swordsman, not camel archers. So much tech that he has access to right now. He hasn't begun doing trade wing yet. He's just not interested in tech. Wait, what? This isn't right. He already teched up. Yeah, I'm confused. Blaze is at tech 4. That was weird. This shouldn't be showing. Yeah, so Blaze is now up at tech 4, so he should have tech advantage. Fight's going to occur. Mangonel's now spamming in onto the Knights, trying to get rid of them before they can reach. And there's too many spearmen to get through here. So now they can switch attention over. You can see that Jim has now split up his forces. The Baron Rams are already making an entrance in the base, so if you fail here, you're going to fail everywhere as Jim. Camel Archers going to town on these lads. There's just too many spearmen for him to work through, and he has no answer to the Mangonels. There's 3 here. And with no Springles, I do feel like Jim is in a lot of trouble here. He's trying to tech up the 4, but this is a frontline tech up, which means it's going to be exposed. And if they're quick, they could actually stop him from completing it. Now Blaze, has he teched them up fully? So yeah, the elite Camel Archers, so they're fully teched up. The Spearmen are fully teched up. This spells trouble for Jim. Blaze will move in. It looks like he's not sniping the Villies quick enough to stop this construction from completing. He's going to try for another Wallalow, but it's going to be sniped before it can even begin. And these elite Camel Archers are slowly being melted through because there's just too many ranged and a few Knights to deal with. So it looks like the tech up will be successful for Jim, but now he needs to buy another minute to try and actually get the upgrades. The other problem he has is he doesn't have much of an active army after that last fight. And with the forces reamassing for Blaze, he could easily push in quickly here. So back to my thought on the Camel Horseman, by the way. I think the reason that Blaze didn't opt for Camel Horseman is because the Spearmen in these choke points are good enough against the Knights, so then he wants the ranged unit that can actually chase, right? If he'd gone for the Horseman, the limitation is still these choke points, and the Horseman could be countered by the Arbors, the crossbowmen, the French build. So this way, he actually has a balance of ranged and melee, and that melee line, by the way, is strong enough that any counter to the Camel Archers is going to be dealt with by the Mangonels as they cluster in and fold onto the line. And there it is, the Mangonels! That's pretty much all the Arbors just dead. This Springle couldn't even get involved. He's going to have to retreat behind his walls. He's rebuilding the walls and the wall towers again. But the problem is there's still more Baron Rams. There's still Mangonels that can snipe you, and the Mangonels are almost in range for their strike. They're coming. Springles are outside the gate. There's more behind it. He has also gone for the Royal Culverin. But these walls are in the way, remember. Like, you can't strike through them. And I believe the Stonewall Tower was complete. Looks like it was completed. Well, it's not shooting, so I might be wrong on that. It's not going to be long for this world, though. The damage is way too high. So that tower's going to go down. Wall's being knocked on again. this constant pressure on Blaze is so hard for Jim to deal with. And I think there's a big lesson for Jim in this one. I bet if he's looking back at this, he's starting to feel like he should have been more present in the early game, trying to harass before these walls went up. But the eco boom from Blaze, like how greedy it was and how unpunished it was, means that Jim is just fighting a slow losing battle in this situation as he's starting to just burn through his resources before he can generate them quick enough, especially on the food front. Meanwhile, Blaze, if anything, his biggest enemy isn't economy, it's PopCap. If anything, maybe you just consider killing some of your eco units just so you can build more military because you've got too many. Charge in. Doesn't look like it's going to matter much at this rate. Blaze is in the base, pushing past the buildings to get rid of the retreating military, and Jim, not much left in this. He can't really afford to lose these siege units either. As he backs up, he's going to lose them one by one. And remember, the Culverins especially are very pricey units to construct, so doesn't want to let them go down because that is a big investment just being burned if they do fall. I mean, 600 gold per, 400 wood. He's trying to protect it, but the Camel Archers are in, just sniping these units down one by one, still in full retreat. And oh, what? The Spriels! They're waypointed right now. They are at a point where they can snipe out the Mangonels. There it is. They'll get rid of one. Dude, this is totally actually worked out in a way. If he can get a second one. But they don't target the correct targets. They don't go after an additional Mangonel. They're actually targeting the Camels. That being said, now there's some range between him and the cannons, he can start to use his Culverins to snipe down the Camel Archers one by one. The problem is the spam just keeps coming. There's just no end. It's just a bottomless pit of gold that Blaze just keeps throwing at Jim. Charges in, covers them burning some buildings. The Mangonels maybe just need to get involved in on the units, but they can't afford to get closer due to the Culverins, which could snipe them out. And these Camel Archers are slowly getting burned. How many trade ships are we up to now? 1, 2... Oh, okay. We're starting... we getting it now. Okay, Jim, I respect it. We understand what we need now. He needs the gold. Jim is gathering twice the amount of gold that Blaze is now at this stage. This is starting to turn around on that eco front, but he needs to get a sustainable military out. And this is the answer. The Roboticans are starting to be built. Roboticans, for those that don't know, as we don't get to see them much, they have a short range, but they have an AoE spread attack in front of them. So when you charge in on these choke points, just gone. Machine gun fire, watch. Fire. Okay. Kind of underwhelming because of the spread, but like if he can protect them and keep this line up, he will actually win this. He just needs more frontline units, though. There's the problem. The Roboticans being sniped out. The fire arrows are just too strong. He's going to lose it again. Small spear line in a choke point, though, works out to the advantage of Blaze because now he can actually not worry about his archers getting melee combated as he just attacks into this. The hand cannoniers have started to be produced for Jim, but I don't think you can get them out quick enough to counter out the elite Camel Archers still. And now look, there it is. This is kind of the nail in the coffin, the bombard cannons. If he doesn't address these bombard cannons, they will begin to snipe out your elite units and they will counteract your Culverins quickly. Because yes, remember, you do get bonus damage against siege units as the Culverin, but the bombard cannons hit so damn hard that it almost becomes irrelevant. 3 of these will snipe out a Culverin in 1 salvo. And he's up to 5. 6? 6? Okay, this might just be the GG moment. Jim, I don't think he has an answer. He's got so many people working on gold, but he actually has no military presence to really show for it. He's been in full retreat. It's just scorched earth tactics. As building by building, everything slowly falls. But this is where Blaze may just look to sink the dagger in. As he charges in, the Culverin is exposed. He'll snipe it out with the archers and back away. I mean, that is kind of everything you had to play around at that stage. You can't build more. There's no siege workshops left. He hasn't begun to construct additional military buildings behind him. And although his eco is high on wood, his eco on gold is non-existent. And at this stage, moving in like this, the bombard cannons should just melt through this base building by building. Oh, it looks like that might be the final piece of the puzzle. Just nothing left military-wise. It's almost like Jim's just given up on producing them. These stables haven't been producing units. Nothing has been producing units. I think, if anything, Jim's just in reflection time right now. He's wondering what was the critical point where he made a mistake. And it might be that early harassment, but there's also later points to consider. I think if he gets a Mangonel out, especially when you talk about these choke points your opponent's trying to snipe and get through, like, you can actually exploit that. The Mangonel is forced to these clusters of spears. If you burn through the spears quick enough and expose the backline with the Knights, I think you can run him down. I think maybe 1 or 2 Mangonels was the answer. And then you were at a stage where you're getting rid of this army before maybe these 6 bombard cannons come out. But I think it really comes down to utilizing the siege earlier, and I really do think it comes down to harassing the eco. I think the other thing that maybe Jim could have done sooner is he could have gotten some trade ships out a bit quicker. But overall, Blaze, man, just understanding the situation and exploiting his eco advantage to just boom like crazy. What a play.